There is a version of you that nobody has met yet. Not because you're hiding, but because you've been too busy managing everyone else's emotions to ever fully arrive in your own life. You've been the one who replies first, the one who explains yourself completely, the one who softens every boundary just to keep the peace. And quietly, without anyone saying a word, you started disappearing, not all at once, slowly, the way water wears down stone. Today, we talk about what it takes to stop that erosion, not by becoming cold, not by becoming distant, but by becoming solid. Here's something nobody told you when you were growing up. Constant availability is not a virtue. It is a vulnerability. Think about anything you value in life, rare things, meaningful things. What do they have in common? They are not everywhere. They are not given to everyone. They are not free. Your energy works the same way. When you are always reachable, always responsive, always ready to explain yourself, you become ambient, like background noise, like air. People stop noticing you because you are simply there. The philosopher Seneca once warned that the person who is a friend to everyone is a friend to no one. He wasn't talking about being cold. He was talking about scarcity of attention. When you give your focus selectively, it becomes a currency. When you give it to everyone, it becomes meaningless. The most powerful shift you can make is this. Stop treating your presence as something people are automatically entitled to. Start treating it as something they earn, not through games, not through manipulation, but through consistency, respect, and alignment. When someone matches your energy, be fully there. When they don't, simply be less available. No announcement, no drama. Just a quiet adjustment that protects your peace. Watch how people speak when they don't trust themselves. Long paragraphs, endless justifications, 3 apologies before the actual point. Sentences that start with, "I don't know if this makes sense, but," or "sorry to bother you, but." This is not politeness. This is fear wearing politeness as a costume. Epictetus said something that stings when you first hear it. If you want to improve, be content to be thought foolish and stupid. What he meant was this: you cannot control how others interpret you. You can only control what you actually say. The more you try to pre-manage how someone receives your words, the more you reveal that your peace depends on their reaction. Real confidence is quieter than most people think. It doesn't explain itself into exhaustion. It says what is true, and then it lets it land. That doesn't work for me. I'm not available for that. No. Clean. Simple. No essay attached. When you stop needing your no to be accepted before you give it, your no becomes real. And something interesting happens. The people who respect you don't need the explanation, and the people who demand one don't deserve it. Between what happens to you and what you do next, there is a gap. Most people live their entire lives never discovering that gap. Someone says something dismissive. They react immediately. Someone goes cold. They panic immediately. Someone creates pressure. They collapse immediately. That instant reaction feels like honesty, but most of the time, it's just old programming. The Stoics called this the discipline of response. Marcus Aurelius spent 20 years reminding himself every single morning, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." He wasn't just writing philosophy. He was training himself to pause, to breathe, to observe the emotion without obeying it, to choose his response instead of being driven by it. Here's what happens when you train that pause. You stop leaking. You stop revealing your triggers to whoever is loud enough to hit them. You stop giving others the remote control to your inner state. When someone expects panic and receives calm, the dynamic shifts. When someone expects defense and receives silence, they recalibrate. The pause is not emptiness. It is power you're not spending yet. And a person who controls their reactions controls the room, not through dominance, but through stability. There is a word people misunderstand completely when it comes to Stoicism: detachment. They hear it and think emotionless, cold, robotic. But true detachment is not the absence of feeling. It is the refusal to be enslaved by outcome. Here's the difference. The desperate mind says, I need this deal. I need them to reply. I need this approval. And the moment you cross from preference to need, you lose your footing. Your tone changes. Your posture changes. You start negotiating against yourself before anyone else gets the chance. Detachment says something different. It says, I would like this. I will work fully for this. And when I have done what is mine to do, I will release the result. Marcus Aurelius wrote, receive without pride. Let go without attachment. That doesn't mean you don't care. It means you are not imprisoned by caring. When you walk into a conversation detached from needing it to go a certain way, your presence changes entirely. You listen better. You think more clearly. You speak without desperation coloring every word. And that energy, the energy of a person who can walk away, is felt. Not because you're threatening anything, but because you're complete. You're not there to extract something. You're there to participate. And participation from wholeness looks completely different than participation from scarcity. Carl Jung once wrote, "The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are." Most people never claim that privilege. They spend their whole lives adjusting themselves for acceptance, explaining themselves for approval, staying available for people who don't stay consistent. But the version of you that is grounded, that pauses before reacting, that gives selectively, that stands in its own clarity without needing applause, that version doesn't chase, it doesn't beg, it doesn't perform, it simply is. And that presence, quiet, steady, unmoved, is the kind that stays with people long after you've left the room. You don't have to be louder to be heard. You don't have to be harder to be respected. You only have to be clear. Start there. Everything else follows. If this reached you, subscribe, not as a habit, but as a commitment to the version of yourself that chooses principle over impulse. Stay grounded. Stay sovereign.